children and animals are seen fighting for food in the trash in this country. Well, believe it or not, this is the reality in many countries around the world. Join us as we explore countries with such extreme filth that it will probably turn your stomach. Let's go. Number 13. The Philippines. In the Philippines, the situation is alarming, especially in the slums surrounding cities like Manila. In areas such as Tondo, the streets are filled with accumulated garbage, creating a chaotic and unsanitary environment. Here, children and animals live in extremely precarious conditions, where the fight for food becomes a matter of daily survival. Families living in these communities often lack basic resources, like clean water and proper sanitation. This forces many to rely on scraps of food found in piles of garbage, where small groups of children can be seen competing with one another for whatever they can find. Meanwhile, skinny dogs and stray cats join them, searching for any crumbs they can scavenge. The local government is struggling to manage the growing waste problem, worsened by an inefficient collection system. As a result, trash piles up on every corner, attracting pests and posing a serious health risk to the population. The combination of poverty, lack of education, and the fight for survival creates a vicious cycle that seems never-ending. Unfortunately, scenes of children rummaging through trash for something to eat have become common in the Philippines, reflecting the harsh reality that many face every day. Number 12. Pakistan. In major cities like Karachi and Lahore, Pakistan faces very serious issues. Daily, tons of waste are dumped in the streets, vacant lots, and even rivers, with little to no proper infrastructure for waste collection and disposal. The economic capital, Karachi, for example, generates about 13,000 tons of waste per day, and only a fraction of that is collected efficiently. The accumulation of waste poses a severe threat to public health, directly affecting children and families living in poorer areas. Many of these children sift through the garbage looking for items they can sell, exposing themselves to serious diseases such as cholera, diarrhea, and respiratory infections due to the proliferation of pathogens and pests. Additionally, improperly disposed waste in vacant lots or near residential areas attracts rodents, mosquitoes, and other disease vectors. Air pollution caused by open burning of waste also severely impacts the health of the population, contributing to respiratory issues, especially among children. Water channels and rivers, often used as dumping grounds, are severely contaminated, impacting water supply and increasing the incidence of waterborne diseases. Even with initiatives to improve the situation, overcrowding and poverty hinder sanitation efforts, leaving communities vulnerable to waste and its dangers. I have a question for you. First, I'd like to tell you that it's possible to keep up with the biggest curiosities of our world every day. But for that, you need to be subscribed to our channel. So have you subscribed yet? If not, take the opportunity to subscribe now. Now that you've done that, let's go. Number 11. Cambodia. Imagine wandering through the vibrant streets of Phnom Penh, where the aroma of street food mingles with the rich history of ancient temples. Yet beneath this picturesque surface lies a pressing crisis that's hard to ignore. Waste management. As you navigate the bustling markets and narrow alleyways, you can't help but notice the alarming piles of trash that litter the landscape, particularly in poorer neighborhoods. In a city where urban growth is racing ahead, the sanitation infrastructure hasn't kept pace. This disconnect forces residents to resort to dumping waste in open spaces and rivers, leading to a cascade of pollution that threatens the very essence of this beautiful country. Each day, mountains of garbage rise higher, transforming vibrant areas into unsanitary conditions that not only compromise public health, but also endanger the experiences of tourists drawn to Cambodia's charm. As you delve deeper into the issue, it becomes clear that this growing crisis demands urgent attention. The future of Cambodia's cities, its people, and its rich heritage hangs in the balance, calling for innovative solutions to reclaim the streets and protect the health of both residents and visitors alike. Number 10. Guatemala. In Guatemala, especially in the urban and peripheral areas of Guatemala City, the accumulation of garbage is a growing problem. Much of the waste ends up being dumped directly into rivers, which residents use for various activities. Along the banks of rivers like Las Vacas, mountains of waste pile up, creating a chaotic scene. The inadequate waste collection and lack of infrastructure force many families with no other options to dispose of their trash in open spaces. This practice worsens the situation in the poorest communities, where access to basic sanitation services is nearly non-existent. In some areas, residents rely on digging through landfills in search of materials they can sell, a harsh reality that sustains the local economy. Even with some government and community initiatives to address the issue, overcrowding and poverty make finding a solution extremely complex. Number 9. South Sudan. In South Sudan, one of the biggest challenges is the improper disposal of waste, particularly in urban centers like Juba. The capital suffers from highly inadequate infrastructure, where waste collection is almost non-existent in poor and marginalized neighborhoods. In peripheral areas, garbage accumulates in the open, contaminating the soil and the few sources of drinking water, creating an environment conducive to the spread of diseases like cholera and diarrhea. Children, who often scavenge through piles of waste for recyclable materials or food, are the most vulnerable. Moreover, the environmental impact is profound. With the frequent open burning of waste, air pollution reaches alarming levels, worsening respiratory conditions for a population already weakened by lack of access to healthcare. This issue is not limited to urban areas, as waste is also dumped in rivers and rural areas, compromising food security by contaminating crops and pastures. The absence of effective public policies and lack of adequate funding for waste management make it difficult to implement lasting solutions. Number 7. Mozambique. Mozambique faces serious waste management issues due to the rapid and disorganized growth of its cities. In Maputo, the capital, waste collection is limited, especially in the outskirts, where mountains of waste pile up in vacant lots. In these areas, uncollected garbage becomes a public health hazard, with outbreaks of diseases like malaria and diarrhea due to the proliferation of mosquitoes and water contamination. The population in poorer areas, especially children, often lives near these dumps, facing daily risks. The waste management system in Mozambique is inadequate, with few recycling initiatives and no proper landfills. This results in improper disposal of waste, including hazardous materials which contaminate soil and water resources. Furthermore, the lack of environmental education exacerbates the situation, as many citizens lack information about proper disposal. Open burning of waste is also a common problem, contributing to air pollution and affecting the respiratory health of communities. The environmental impact is devastating, with entire areas turning into makeshift garbage dumps, compromising the local ecosystem and hindering sustainable development. Number 6. Haiti. In Haiti, a stark reality unfolds in the shadow of deep poverty. The streets of Port-au-Prince are overwhelmed with mountains of garbage, a powerful symbol of the nation's ongoing struggles. Here, food shortages plague families daily, forcing children, often barefoot and vulnerable, to scavenge through heaps of waste for any scraps they can find. This relentless search for sustenance highlights not just a lack of resources, but also a significant public health crisis, as the accumulation of trash attracts rats and other animals, turning the streets into battlegrounds for survival. In the hardest-hit communities, entire families depend on scavenging, navigating through layers of refuse in hopes of uncovering something edible. Life in the slums is marked by an urgent need for solutions amid hostile conditions. The sight of children rummaging through garbage is a grim reminder of the harsh realities faced by many Haitians, where basic rights like food and safety seem perpetually out of reach. The absence of effective waste management exacerbates the crisis, compounding health risks and contributing to the spread of diseases. Without proper infrastructure, the cycle of poverty and despair continues, making it nearly impossible for communities to break free from their circumstances. Number 5. Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, particularly in Addis Ababa, rapid urbanization overwhelms the already fragile waste management system. Mountains of garbage are a common sight in poorer neighborhoods, where public collection is extremely limited. In these areas, residents are forced to dispose of their waste in vacant lots or even in the streets, exposing themselves to an unhealthy environment that fosters the spread of diseases. Children and entire families live among piles of trash, risking contamination from diseases like cholera and respiratory infections. The lack of adequate infrastructure for waste treatment, combined with the growing number of open dumps, worsens the situation. The city generates about 3,000 tons of waste per day, but only a fraction is collected and disposed of properly. With no landfills and an inefficient recycling system, much of the waste ends up polluting rivers and sources of drinking water. Another challenge is the lack of environmental education, which leads many citizens to neglect proper waste disposal practices. Burning waste is also a common practice, further contributing to air pollution and further harming the health of local communities. With limited resources and inadequate management, the waste situation in Ethiopia poses an ongoing threat to both public health and the environment. Number 4. Venezuela. In the midst of Venezuela's humanitarian crisis, the streets of Caracas tell a story of despair. Families are caught in a relentless struggle for survival, surrounded by a landscape marred by shortages of food and basic necessities. As the government grapples with political and economic turmoil, everyday people are left to sift through towering piles of garbage, desperately searching for anything that might alleviate their hunger. Heart-wrenching scenes unfold daily, with children and animals scavenging for food scraps, a shocking yet sadly real reflection of life in this city. On the outskirts, communities form groups to comb through the accumulated waste, hoping to find something edible in the chaos. Among these trash heaps, small children often roam alongside emaciated dogs, engaged in a silent battle for survival. This environmental degradation goes hand in hand with a surge in vector-borne diseases, as the mountains of refuse attract pests and vermin. The absence of proper waste management exacerbates the crisis, turning Venezuela's slums into true epicenters of misery, where hope seems buried beneath layers of trash. Number 3. Afghanistan. Afghanistan's complex situation is also reflected in its waste management. In cities, especially Kabul, the lack of adequate infrastructure results in mountains of trash in the streets, which have become part of the urban landscape. The waste collection system is inefficient, and many residents choose to dispose of their waste in inappropriate places, such as streams and abandoned lots. This reality is further worsened by political instability and a lack of resources to implement an effective sanitation system. The consequences are visible. Diseases linked to poor hygiene and pollution are common among the population, who live daily with the accumulated trash in the streets. Ghana. Known for its beaches and vibrant culture, Ghana is not immune to waste problems in its cities. The capital, Accra, is marked by enormous piles of waste in the streets, the result of an inefficient waste collection system and a lack of awareness about waste management. Vulnerable communities often dispose of their trash in open areas, leading to an accumulation that compromises public health. Open-air dumps are common, where trash is burned, releasing toxic smoke and pollutants into the air. This reality affects not only residents but also the environment, making the need for sustainable waste management solutions and the promotion of recycling practices urgent. Number 2. Madagascar. Madagascar faces a deep humanitarian crisis, driven by severe and interconnected climate disasters. The worst drought in 40 years, combined with devastating floods and cyclones, has severely affected food security and displaced thousands of people. In 2022, the country recorded the highest number of internal displacements in its history, with more than 290,000 people forced to leave their homes. Additionally, cyclones Chineso and Freddy in 2023 impacted over 270,000 people, including 88,000 displaced. Climate effects are worsened by environmental degradation, with 1/3 of the land affected by erosion, harming agriculture, the main livelihood. Uncontrolled urbanization also increases vulnerability, especially in areas like the capital, Antananarivo, where many migrants settle in precarious conditions. Communities are increasingly dependent on extreme survival strategies, such as selling their last belongings or reducing food intake. Gender-based violence and early marriage are also on the rise as ways of coping with the crisis. The situation is worsened by the lasting impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, which further undermined the country's ability to tackle these challenges. Number 1. Nepal. In this country, in cities like Kathmandu, trash accumulates in the streets due to the lack of an efficient waste collection and disposal system. The combination of population growth and inadequate infrastructure results in mountains of waste, harming public health and the environment. Many residents dump their trash into rivers and vacant lots, leading to water pollution and soil degradation. Additionally, during the tourist season, the influx of visitors worsens the situation, with many tourists leaving behind waste that is not properly treated. Awareness of waste management and the implementation of sustainable solutions are crucial to ensuring a cleaner and healthier future for Nepal. However, the question remains, will the government take action? Which of these countries surprised you the most? Leave your answer down in the comments, and don't forget to click on the video that's popping up on the screen. I've prepared something special for you. Well, that's it, and see you next time. Curious One.